Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Bob Berry ruled Milwaukee's airwaves in the 60s and 70s. He spoke with countless musicians and celebrities over the years. Bob collected remarkable recordings of these encounters, which he's now sharing with the public. Here's Bob.
Hugh Downs was a radio and TV broadcaster into the late 1990s. He was Jack Paar's sidekick on The Tonight Show, co-host on The Today Show, and anchor on 2020. Hugh was also the announcer on the Kuka, Fran and Ollie Show, Sid Caesar Hour, and the game show Concentration. Downs was very much involved in public service, including consultant to the United Nations refugee problems and on the board of the U.S. Committee for UNICEF. On his last 2020 appearance, he was one of the first public figures to say that marijuana should be legalized.
Hugh Downs is on the air with us. He's one of the most familiar figures in television, not only as host of the ABC News Magazine 2020, but from his long tenure as host of PBS's Over Easy, and of course the years on the Tonight Show with Jack Paar. I was almost going to say the Today Show, which is true too. He was on the Today Show for 9 years, and that long-running game show Concentration. And I could go on with other things he does. President of the National Space Institute, and he's written a dozen books on aging and space and the environment. How do you avoid from spreading yourself too thin?
Well, I don't. That's the problem. I think in a way, I've always called myself the world champion dilettante because I kind of dabble in everything. And some things I'm more serious about than others, as you know. Broadcasting and space and the children of the world are prime concerns. But I confess to an interest in everything, and I do spread myself a little thin.
You actually worked around our area here. You're WMAQ in Chicago, right?
Sure, yeah. I was on staff with NBC Central Division for 11 years there.
And I think there was a nice lady there that you met and ended up marrying, right?
Oh, yes, my wife. We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Is that right? Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's terrific. And you also did some work on the Kuka, Fran and Ollie Show. I think that was right after MAQ, wasn't it?
As a matter of fact, that was the first network television program I did. I had done a little local television prior to that, and then that feed out of Chicago was a prime thing, and I was lucky to be on it.
And the Today Show, what do you think of the morning news programs now, including Today?
Well, they're different. You know, when I was doing Today, those 9 years, we were the only game in town because CBS had Captain Kangaroo and ABC wasn't even on the air.
Oh, that's right.
So it's apples and oranges to compare, I think, now what ABC, for example, with Good Morning America is doing, which is a very excellent program. But there are 3 programs on now, and it's a different ballgame.
What are your favorite television shows?
Oh, golly, I don't know. Let's see. Well, actually, 2020 and... that sounds biased, doesn't it? 2020, and I usually watch the news broadcast. You know, Peter Jennings, I think, is terrific. And that's a good news program.
Is there anything about your profession that bothers you?
It bothers in the sense that you kind of strive to make things better. Yes, I think. I don't think the promise of cable has unfolded the way it may yet, but it hasn't the way it was stated. You know, originally cable was going to satisfy all the special interests of people, like whole cable give you tennis lessons, and there's a little of that. But cable, I find now, is in the scramble for ratings, and the result is that they're suffering really. They worry about cash flow, and therefore they're not providing those intricate and diverse fare that I think cable was born to supply.
Mm-hmm. You know, you've been so successful in television. I was kind of wondering what your classmates wrote in your yearbook. Was there anything that showed that maybe this would be?
Oddly, I wrote the class prophecy.
Oh.
And I don't remember what I said about myself. I put something down like I was going to be the mayor of some town. It was all very frivolous. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know what I was going to do because when I was 13 years old, I discovered I had a severe color deficiency. So I was going to be an artist. And I have some draftsmanship ability, and I don't have formal training. But as far as painting goes, a colorblind painter is a kind of a rare, probably not a very useful thing. And so I was drifting along, really, until after I was in college, as a matter of fact, when I was kind of intrigued by broadcasting. And on a fluke, during the Depression, I managed to get a job at a little station in Ohio. I just fell into broadcasting. I didn't even plan it.
How did you become spokesperson for the aged?
When I was 30 years old, I did a program on NBC, a special on geriatric medical special on lifespan. And it was called How Long Can You Live? And it was produced by Jules Power. So later when Power mounted this PBS series done that show together. But I had kept up an interest in the interim, and I've always been interested in the whole process of not only socially, how abysmally we treat our elders, but from a medical standpoint, what the human potential really is and how it might be better realized. And I think that's what put me into it.
Hugh Downs wrote a couple of books about the age of 2, 30 Dirty Lies about old, and the Best Years book, a manual on late years planning. What are some of those myths about the old?
Well, the myths are really cliche things. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. The idea that intelligence diminishes with age. The evidence is really not there. Intelligence can diminish with brain injury. Mm-hmm. But if that happens when you're 9 years old, you're called brain injured. And if it happens when you're 90, you're called senile. So
yeah, right.
It's a term of rejection, really. There's every evidence that an undiseased brain will probably slightly increase its intelligence if it's put to use over a long life. That's one myth. Another myth is that old people are not interested in romance or sex, and that's a poppycock. I mean, if there's something wrong with you, I've always kind of adopted the idea that if there's something wrong, like whether it's sexual dysfunction or you can't run upstairs 2 at a time, it's because something is wrong, and might or might not be correctable, but it has nothing to do with age.
Yeah, right. You know, you were in the movie, Oh God, you've been in several movies, 4, I think, to be exact. Oh God, Book 2, starring George Burns. Now, he's making another one. Has he called you yet?
No, I haven't heard yet on that one. I did a cameo part in that already, you're right.
Yeah, right. Well, I have enjoyed talking with you, Hugh, and I wish you continued success and a lot of good health.
All right, thank you.
And you certainly have done a lot for the television industry.
Well, it's done a lot for me. I can say I can put that side of the coin out. And I enjoyed talking with you, too, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob Berry, WOKY 9092.
Thank you for listening to Bob Berry's Unearthed Interviews. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. You can find all the episodes at WisconsinBroadcastingMuseum.org. Check out Bob Berry's book, Rock and Roll Radio Milwaukee. Book sale proceeds support Angels Kids Fund and Donate Life Wisconsin. The preceding program was made possible by a generous contribution from Terry Vaughn.